Hi, and welcome back to Just One More Thing, a podcast about knitting and crafting. I'm your host, Janessa, and it's been a couple of really crazy, busy weeks, so I apologize for not getting a podcast out to you all. Welcome to everybody, all of you old viewers. Well, the ones who have been with me for a while now. Not that you're necessarily old. But welcome to all the past viewers. Also, welcome to all of the new viewers. I'm so glad you're checking out this podcast. Make sure you're sharing with your friends as well so we can grow our little knitting community here at Just One More Thing. So yeah, a couple of crazy weeks have been happening since I last spoke to you. The kids got out of school. We had our last day of school. Hooray for summer. It was a really successful first grade and fifth grade year for the kiddos. We had a couple of days off, and then we are back into summer school at the moment. We have a really great program at our school where they go kind of like an extra 2 weeks, and they just do really fun enrichment things, but they move up into the next grade for that period. So they're going to summer school as second and sixth graders. Which is weird to say, especially the sixth grader part, because that's Brooklyn's last year of elementary. Tear. So sad. So yeah, they're having a lot of fun in summer school. Yesterday they went to the zoo and they had a lot of fun with that. I also had a crazy mom panic kind of day the other day. I am super susceptible to getting poison ivy. Like, people can just look at me when they have poison ivy and I just start itching, and pretty soon I'm just like head to toe horrible red itchy oozy splotches. It's really disgusting. Like when people burn trash piles, oh, not trash piles, but like yard, like stick piles or leaf piles. This time of year, I always feel like I have to like shut the windows and I can't go outside, because if there's even a little bit of poison ivy in that smoke, I get it. And I have horrible reactions to poison ivy and poison oak in general, and sometimes even grass. Yay me. I don't go outside this time of year very often, unless I'm just like covered head to toe in repellents and things. And so the other morning, Emerson came in and I was still asleep. It was really early in the morning and he was whining about something, but I was incoherent. So I was just like, whatever, get into bed, go back to sleep. It's not time for school yet. When the alarm went off to get up for school, he was crying that he was just so itchy. And I looked over at him and he was like, just his neck and his chest and his back was just a big, angry red splotch. And my immediate thought was, oh, I cuddled with him while we were reading last night and he's been sleeping in my bed and I'm gonna get poison ivy so bad, because I thought that's what he had. I thought he had poison ivy. So we immediately like got him in the shower and like washed him down with Dawn dish soap, because that is one of the best ways to get the oil off your skin if you have poison ivy. At least in my opinion. So I like washed him head to toe in Dawn dish soap. I got in the shower and did the same for me. Got him dressed and we went to the doctor. Like, I didn't even mess around with like home remedies when it comes to poison ivy. Poison ivy is a straight to the doctor for me, because I'm going to need like some sort of like cortisone shot. I just know it. And so we get to the doctor and she's like, oh, well, you're in luck. This isn't poison ivy. And I was like, oh, are you sure? Because I was panicking at this point about how bad I was going to break out just like any second. I felt bad for him too, obviously, but like in the past, it takes like 3 packs of like prednisone and cortisone shots. And I have a really bad time with poison ivy, so I'm really paranoid about it. So thankfully it wasn't poison ivy, but unfortunately it was an allergic reaction to something. He had broken out in hives. So we went through all of the scenarios. Like, he has really bad hay fever. Um, so we kind of were like, well, that wouldn't give him a hive reaction. And so we went through things like, did he roll around in the grass? Did he eat something unusual? Have we changed soaps? Have we changed clothes or detergents? Or we went through the gamut of things, and we could not come up with anything that made us think like, oh yeah, he would have been allergic to that. Because everything, like, nothing's changed, no new foods, anything like that. So it's still a bit of a mystery. My best guess is that he rolled around in the grass. So he's been told not to roll around in the grass, which for a 6-year-old boy is really, really hard in the summer not to roll around in the grass. But yeah, he's all better now. We gave him lots and lots of Benadryl and slathered him in hydrocortisone cream. And it cleared up for him really, really quick. It was like a day of misery, and then he was fine. And he really didn't even seem that miserable the whole time. Like, he just itched, which to me is miserable. But yeah, he seemed to get over it really quickly, so yay for that. But now we're on lookout for what he possibly could have been allergic to. So it's like every day, like, are you itchy? Do you have a spot anywhere? Or like trying to figure out what would have caused that severe of a reaction. I don't know. So that was like my crazy 2 weeks of like getting kids out of school, back into school, and dealing with crazy allergy reactions. But through all of that, I did manage to get some knitting done. So, and some crafting done. So I do have a couple of finished objects for you to start off with. The first one is the hat that I'm wearing. My hair is crazy, so I didn't straighten it today, so it's in its curly, we're gonna stick up in all directions mode. I'll put the hat back on soon, I promise. But this is a hat called Symphony, I think was the pattern name. If it's not, I'll correct it up here. This was part of the Aroha Knits. Oh, I still got my marker on there. Aroha Knits did a Mystic 5-day challenge. If you're not familiar with Aroha Knits, she kind of designs and coaches along the lines of fiber muses. And her fiber muses are like the Mystic, which is kind of self-care, like knitting for sanity type muse. There's a Dreamer, who is like the person who wants to design. There's I want to say like Yarn Alchemist, which is just like straight on knitter. Dreamer, Alchemist, Mystic. I don't know, there's 5 of them, and I'm drawing a blank on what all 5 of them are, but she kind of designs with those muses in mind and runs her challenges along those lines. And this was the Mystic one, so it was very much like a deep dive into like mantras and self-care and why you knit, kind of prompts along each day as we knit this very simple slip stitch pattern. So there's a nice close-up of it. I only realized as I was binding off for the pattern that this slip stitch part right here in that section, that I was supposed to be purling and not knitting. But so I ended up with a slightly different look of a hat than everyone else got, but I'm still really, really happy with it. I did an extra row because I want, in the winter, I like to be able to pull my hat down like this all the way over my ears and down the back of my neck to keep the back of my neck warm, and then still have, like, you know, enough slouch in there if I grow my hair out that there's room for my hair. But then I can also kind of pull it back and have it be really slouchy in the back. That's kind of how I like to wear my hats. So I'm really, really happy with this. I did kind of fudge the pattern a little bit. Like I said, I did a knit on the slip stitch instead of a purl. The pattern also called for fingering weight yarn on size 5 needles. That would have been a really open pattern if I would have done fingering weight on size 5 needles. Because of my gauge, I just knew that that wasn't going to work. So I kept the needle size because I like size 5 needles. I have a lot of them. It's kind of one of my, like, between a US 3 and a US 5 is kind of my sweet spot when it comes to needles. And so I bumped up to a DK weight yarn. So this is some of the DK yarn that I dyed myself when, when I was doing the Andrea Mary, the Comfort Fade Cardi. This is some of the yarn that I dyed for the Comfort Fade Cardi. So it was Bare Knit Picks Merino DK, the Superwash Merino DK from Knit Picks, that I dyed myself. So it doesn't really have a colorway name or anything like that, but I had like a whole skein of this left over. And so this is what's left after doing the hat. So I could probably get like another like children's size beanie out of that, surely, or like a baby beanie or something out of it. I didn't weigh to see how much I used. I went down in the stitch count like I did. Normally I do about 100 stitches for a hat my size. And so 100 stitches around, and then I just followed the pattern. When it came to doing the crown decreases, I had to kind of, you know, re-estimate, like, you know, divide that 100 stitches evenly and then like decrease until I got down to the number of stitches I wanted. But I've done enough hats, I've knit enough hats that I felt comfortable doing that. But it was a really easy pattern to change that up with because it was only like a 2-stitch repeat. Pardon me. It wasn't, you know, like a complicated lace pattern repeat or something like that. So it was really easy to change the gauge and the stitch counts and things like that on. So that was the Symphony hat by Frenchie from Aroha Knits. The second finished object I have to show you is one of my own design. This is the Violetta hat. And the last time I saw you, I think I was basically around in here working towards the decreases. I had a really hard time with the crown of this hat because I wanted to do something kind of like decorative and lacy on it. If you remember, the goal behind this hat was to have like a spring, early fall hat that had some open work in it, that was nice and thin, like warm on a chilly morning, but also could be worn really, like, kind of like I have this one on now, as just to cover up a bad hair day hat. So I'll show you up close so you can see it's hard to see the lace when it's not. There we go. So there's the little violet yarn overs and micro striping. So anyway, when it got to the crown, like, I tried 5 or 6 different ways to make it pop, I guess is what I was trying to go for. I just couldn't figure it out. And so I finally was like, you know what, just keep it simple. Just do a plain old regular decrease with the hat. So I mean, it still ends up looking really nice with like the pie shaped decreases. It ends up being, the way I have it written, it ends up being a very flat crown shape. So like, as you can see there, like when you hold out, like it does lay flat. So you don't get like a, let's see, we can show you with this one. I don't know if I got this one as flat as I wanted it to or not. But that's kind of always the goal, is to get one that doesn't like poke out in the middle. So I guess I did an okay job with that one as well. Yeesh, my hair right there today. So this one, Let me put it on so that the seam isn't right there in the front. Let's put it on this way. There we go. So this one is meant to be very much slouchy. I can pull it down and do it like, there we go, like a beanie. So, I mean, it still could kind of be a winter hat, but it really is meant to be more of a hat like that. So anyway, there it is. The Violetta hat. Basically, the pattern's not published yet. I am getting in a line for my tech editor to take a look at it and then also get it test knit. I'm looking for test knitters. So hopefully this next week I'll kind of put a call up on the Ravelry page or on Instagram and be asking for test knitters for the Violetta hat. And maybe next week, I don't know if I'll end up putting it off a little bit longer or not. We'll see. I still need to get pictures of it and stuff, so soon, very soon, we will get in the finishing processes of this hat, and I'll have it out as a published pattern on Ravelry, and you guys will be the first to know about it. So those are my finished objects for the week. Before I get into what I'm actually like knitting on, I have another kind of finished craft projects that I'll talk about. So my group that I spin with, called the Fiber Gals, every once in a while we get together and we do things other than actually spinning. And the other day we had a day where we went to one of the ladies' houses and she taught us the kind of basics about shibori dyeing. And so here is some of, we did silk. So there was one silk scarf that I did. It's not the same as tie-dyeing exactly, but it's similar in that it's like a resist type of dye. And so you get some of the same aspects of it, but here is probably the favorite one that I did. And I'll tell you in a second how I got these patterns in here. So those were the silk scarves that I did. We were using fiber reactive dyes. We soaked the silk scarves in just plain white vinegar for a few minutes, got them nice and saturated. And then we, on this one, I think I kind of, I can't remember how oh yes, I do remember now. So with this one, every so often I took a stone, like a river stone, and I would place it here and I would like rubber band it around, so like the stone. Let's pretend this was the stone. This is way too big for the stone, but let's pretend that was a stone. I would do that and I would really, really tight right up here, I would rubber band around that. And so everywhere where you see one of those really dark spots is where I put a stone. And so you can kind of see from the spots, they were different stones of different sizes. Some are more square, some are more round. Lots of different sizes of the stones. And so once I had all of the stones rubber banded in there, on this area, because of the way that, so it ended up kind of being like this, and you would have like a stone hanging down every so often. And so on these areas, I took a lighter purple dye and I just kind of very gently like kind of went around, and because it's silk, it like really absorbs the dye really quick. So I just kind of splotched the dye on there for the lighter color. And then I went back with a darker dye and I took, so like I would have this and the stone would be in there, and I just touched that like with a foam brush. I just touched the darker dye to the stone, and so it saturated like where the stone was. And then we heat set in the microwave. You basically just put it in a Ziploc bag and microwaved it for like 2 minutes. Um, and then you rinse it out and the dye, and that sets the dye. And so that was how that one came out. This green one, I did an accordion fold with it. Like I took it this direction and I went like this, kind of back and forth like this. And then I put rubber bands around it in different places, and that's how I got like that dark green. But then when I opened it up, there was lots and lots of white space in there, and I didn't really want all that white space. So the gal who was teaching us how to do this, I couldn't ever really figure out how she managed to do it, but she folded it in such a way that the white spots were showing. And then I went in and just like kind of dabbed on that lighter lime green color and came out with this. So it was a lot of fun seeing all the different ways that you can like fold and use like cardboard and rubber bands and stones and all these different things. One was where you would take it and you would kind of like twist it in a way and wrap it around like a wine bottle and really scrunch it down, and like wrap a string around it to get the area where you wanted to resist. And then you would just kind of dye the outside of the scarf and it would come out kind of real stripy. It was really, really cool. So there was lots of fun different ways to come up with the patterns. And you get some really fun like geometric type patterns. Whereas with tie-dye, it's almost always like starburst type patterns. With this, it was a little bit more geometric and it was really cool. So if you want to see more examples of shibori dyeing, there's a hashtag for it on Instagram. It was like just hashtag shibori, SHIBORI. And tons and tons and tons of really beautiful examples of shibori dyed fabrics. And like I said, if you use fiber reactive dyes, you still have to use like a different mordant. With protein type like silks and wools, you can use vinegar as a mordant. If you use cottons, then you need to use soda ash as what you soak your fabric in before you dye. But yeah, it was a fun day. I enjoyed it. I kind of want to get some like of like those flour sack like tea towels and do different kind of shibori dyes with them with the kids this summer, and then maybe like do some embroidery on them or something. I think that would be a fun little art project for me and the kiddos. We'll see if it happens. I have a lot of really ambitious plans for this summer, crafting wise, and I don't know that we'll get to them all. On that note, I'll talk about what I'm actually knitting on currently. And it's been pretty much this one project that I'm knitting for a friend, that she's commissioned me to knit for her. And it is the Shishui Shrug by Suzanne Summers. Is it Summers or Summers? I'm probably mispronouncing it, right? No, I'm probably mispronouncing it. So I haven't quite got to where I am increasing for the sleeves yet, but I am to the part where I'm fading in that new yellow color that's going to be the majority of the shawl. So I'm kind of fading out of the white and fading into the yellow. So you can kind of see how that's looking. It's coming along really nice. Here's the light side. Here is the dark side. I have to admit, I like the dark side a lot better. I think the dark side works with this a lot better than sorry, I saw a snagged stitch. I think that the dark side works a lot better with this garter than the light side does. But I don't know. They're both okay. But um, I don't know, let's get all entangled. So there's not a whole lot to show there. I'm using, I want to say, size 5s. I do have a needle gauge nearby. Let me double check. Yep, size 5s. Size 5 needles. Like I said, size 5s are kind of my sweet spot. But this does show you, like, if I would have done a fingering weight hat in size 5s, like, look how open that hat would have been. I mean, my gauge, that's such a loose gauge with fingering weight yarn. Anyway, size 5 needles. The yarn that I'm using is the Cloudborne Merino Twist Highland Superwash Sock Twist from Cloudborne. And I'm trying to remember the colorway names. I know the yellow is like Maize, the white was Ecru, and I don't know if I can remember. The brown is Espresso Heather, is the brown. So yeah, that's been kind of like the one thing that I've been knitting quite a bit on. I haven't really paid much attention to my other projects. Once I got this hat done, I kind of went to work full-time on this because it's for somebody else and I don't want to take months and months to get it knit, even though she doesn't need it until it gets cold again. Like, I have all summer to get it knit for her, but I don't want to, like, put it off, especially for other shinier projects that maybe I want to be knitting on. I mean, there's other things that I kind of work on here and there, but for the most part, it's been that. And then the last 5 days, while I was knitting the symphony hat, I pretty much just kind of knit on that too. But this was so quick, and each day, because it was kind of a 5-day thing, you, like, basically day 1 was doing the ripping, and that took all of, like, I don't know, 30 minutes or something like that to do. Not much ribbing. And then you were supposed to, like, start on the day 2 was starting on that. Day 3 was finishing the body. Day 4 was getting halfway through the crown, and day 5 was finishing. So it really, like, spending 30 minutes a day on this did not take greatly away from this project at all. I'm trying to think of any other, like, crafty things that I've been working on. Not really. I did discover a new fun way to kind of, when I'm knitting, I can't just sit in silence and knit unless I'm working on a project that, like, really requires super concentration. And so, like, when I'm working on patterns like this, or like this one where it's very repetitive all the way through, like, there's not a lot of thought behind it, I usually have to watch something or listen to something in order to entertain myself. And so I did come across a couple of new podcasts that I've enjoyed while knitting. One is called Pantsuit Politics. If you are into political type discussions at all, this is a really good one because it's not right-leaning or left-leaning. It's very kind of down the middle. One host is a Democrat, one host is a Republican, but they have very, very civil conversations, and not all just about politics, but they talk about many, many different aspects of kind of life and culture all at the same time, but they're coming at it from these different perspectives. I don't know, it's nice to seek out examples of, like, people getting along in this day and age of politics. So that was a good one that I discovered. I would recommend you listen to that if you like that kind of, I mean, they do talk about like current events and politics and things like that. So it's not just all culture. Um, the other, what was the other one that I thought, ooh, I want to recommend this? Um, I can't think of it. I'm sorry. I lost it. I did start reading a couple of new books. One is Station 11. I'm like just getting into it, but I've heard really amazing things from other people about it. So if you, it seems like it might be like a little kind of post-apocalyptic. So if you like that kind of genre, then you might enjoy this book, Station 11. And then the other one is Rick Riordan's series. I have been devouring like the Percy. Brooklyn kind of wanted to read them, and so I thought like it would be fun to read them together because I'd heard good things about it. She lost interest pretty quickly, probably because I got so into it and I was like, oh, mom likes it. It's not cool anymore. But yeah, I've read like all through his series, and last night I started the one about the Egyptian gods, the Kane Chronicles, I think is what it's called. And anyway, the book is written as two kids narrating, like they're speaking into a microphone, kind of like the brother and sister are speaking and doing a recording to like pass on to people. I haven't quite gotten that far into it to know like why they're doing this, but anyway, that's how the book is written, is like I'm recording this thing on a microphone and you're listening to it as the reader, you're listening to it. And so I thought it would be really fun to actually listen to the recording. So I, instead of downloading the book to read, I downloaded it on Audible and I'm listening to that book. And the narration's pretty good. I don't always like listening to books because I'm really picky about narrators. And if you don't get a good narrator on a book, like the book's really hard to enjoy. But the narrator on this one is pretty good. I don't know who it is. And they do switch, like, so when it's the boy's voice, it's a male reading, and when it's the girl's voice, it's the girl reading. So that's kind of been fun and entertaining to listen to. So those are a couple of recommendations for books. Show-wise, I don't really have any new, like, fun, exciting shows to recommend. I have been watching Midsummer Murders. Like, that's a really kind of whodunit from an English perspective. I don't know. It's not like, there's nothing like really groundbreaking about that show, but it's just entertaining enough to like be a good show to have on in the background. That's not a really great ringing recommendation for it, is it? It's my background show. Like when I'm doing other things, it's what I keep on in the background for noise when I'm all caught up on my podcasts. Anyway, that's enough rambling from me. Brooklyn's going to try to do a little recording, so you might stick around after the credits and there might be something from her there. Other than that, I hope you're having a wonderful, in the States, Memorial Day weekend. Happy summer, and we'll see you soon.